It is an explicit acknowledgement by the rich nations of a responsibility to help the poorest countries in the world to pay their debts. Peter Morgan, BBC News in Cologne.
Millions of people are expected to be watching tomorrow as Prince Edward and Sophie Rhys-Jones take their vows, although there'll be less of the pomp and pageantry of previous royal weddings. Today there was a final rehearsal at Windsor's St George's Chapel, and there have been final preparations in the town itself.
On her last night before joining the royal family, Sophie Rhys-Jones is with her parents at the Queen Mother's Windsor home, Royal Lodge. Tomorrow she'll become a princess, or, if the Queen so decides, a duchess. The wedding will not be a state occasion like Saturday's Trooping the Colour. With a 5 o'clock start and evening dress stipulated for guests, Prince Edward and Sophie have underlined that they want their marriage to be different. And the man who'll marry them believes they have a solid foundation to build on.
They're good friends, they're very good friends. And they have a marvellous rapport and a way of relating together to other people.
Beneath the castle walls, the florist charged with designing the bouquets and arrangements has had a team of 15 working flat out since Wednesday. But she's not giving much away.
I think it's a very informal wedding, as royal weddings go, and I think that will be reflected in the style that everybody who's played a part in the wedding will be providing, including ourselves. No, it's a state secret, I can't tell you much.
Even with the wedding so close, the castle gates have been open today, and tourists have been enjoying the bonus of the added excitement. One woman from Canada has already staked her place.
Well, I came early because I didn't know. I've been to this is my 5th royal wedding, and I just didn't know how many people would be here.
The family are hoping that Princess Margaret will be with them in St George's Chapel to witness the marriage. She hasn't been seen out since badly scalding her feet in Mustique, and provisions have been made for her to come in a wheelchair if necessary. The Duchess of York, however, won't be here. She hasn't been invited. Jenny Bond, BBC News at Windsor Castle.
Now back to the main news tonight. The Serb army on the verge of leaving Kosovo completely, 24 hours ahead of schedule. Our World Affairs editor John Simpson, who was in Belgrade throughout the 11 weeks of NATO's bombing campaign, has just returned to Britain. He's with me now. John, blocking the roads out with the Serb army are tens of thousands of Serb civilians who are now Milosevic's own refugees. What sort of a problem does he face with them?
A problem, I think, more of appearance than anything else. In his terms, they don't exist. His state media has refused to acknowledge their existence. They've crept in a little bit into the private television services and the newspapers, the independent newspapers, but otherwise there's been a careful control over anything to do with them, and foreign crews like the BBC, for instance, aren't allowed to film them because they don't really exist in his terms. He did a deal with the United Nations, he says, which protects everybody in Kosovo, which preserves the whole Yugoslav control over Kosovo. So therefore, how can there be any Serb refugees? It's just a matter of the emperor's clothes.
Well, the Serb people may not know, but do they want to know? Is there a desire to know what has been done in their name in Kosovo?
In terms of killing people, in terms of the torture, in terms of the terrible things that we now know have been carried out there, they neither will be told nor, I suspect, will they want to know. There's a very careful ability in Yugoslavia for people to close their minds off to that kind of thing. They don't want to be told. If they are told, they'd say, well, it's just the international media just simply following a different agenda and lying to them. So I think, with the exception of some very brave independent opposition politicians, I think they won't want to know.
Briefly, John, if only a quarter of the atrocities can be proved, it must be fantasy to believe that the Albanians and the Serbs can live next to each other in 100 years.
I'm afraid that is the case. And it's not only what the Serbs did to the ethnic Albanians, it's what may happen to the Serbs now at the hands of ethnic Albanians on a far smaller scale, but nevertheless those things will get built up in people's minds to make it, I think, impossible for them to live together without the control of some outside power. That means, I think, frankly, that NATO or the international agencies in some cases, or the international community in general, will be in control, will have to be in control of Kosovo for years and years to come.
John Simpson, thank you. And that's all from the BBC Newsroom tonight. Good night.
And good evening from Newsroom South East. The Lord Mayor of London is questioning tonight how an initially peaceful protest in the city got wildly out of control, leaving 25 people in hospital and a large stretch of the square mile badly damaged. As thousands massed for a protest against third world debt, one woman fell under a moving police van. Dan Saladino reports.
The woman fell under the van after protesters surrounding it closed in. It took firemen 20 minutes to free her. She's now at the Royal London Hospital with concussion and a broken leg. It was the ugliest moment of a day which had started peacefully. Around 4,000 demonstrators had made their way into the capital for a carnival against capitalism. Financial institutions were targeted and hundreds made their way to Liverpool Street, where the disturbance broke out.
The police yesterday, when we were discussing this with them, said when there are protests of this kind, when there are demonstrations, they try to work with the organisers to avoid danger to either side. They didn't do this, and I'm afraid this is the result.
But the City of London police say they did everything they could in an extremely difficult situation.
There was no attempt to negotiate a route or to steward that gathering or to steward any march away. So we were left policing a very large crowd who quite clearly were intent on causing damage and violence.
There's now a team of detectives and forensic officers investigating the disturbances. Dan Saladino, Newsroom South East.
Our reporter Tom Simons is in the city now. Tom, what is the situation? There are reports of people massing in Trafalgar Square.
Yes, Mike, it's still not over for the police tonight. We have reports that about 3,000 protesters are currently in Trafalgar Square. We don't know whether they're new people or whether they're people who were at this location in the city who've moved down towards Westminster and the general area of Trafalgar Square. Having said that, the city is now returning to normal. You can see behind me people having a normal Friday night's drink, and some of the roads are now reopening.
Concern is being expressed about how the police controlled this situation. It was extraordinary to see a police van going off at such speed with people clinging to it. What are you hearing on the ground?
Well, the police say that the van was being attacked by protesters, that doors were open to the van, that people got inside, and the unfortunate thing that happened was that one of them fell underneath. They say a full investigation will be held into that. They say, as far as their riot controls, if you like, are concerned, that they found it very difficult because none of the protesters would negotiate with them, especially on the route of the demonstration.
All right, Tom, thank you for that. 4 underground stations closed by today's protest are still shut tonight. They are Blackfriars, Embankment, Charing Cross and Bank. Managers also shut down the entire Circle line all day because of engineering works. Passengers are still being diverted onto the district. The Circle is likely to reopen around 7 tomorrow morning. Rob Curling is back tomorrow evening, but for now, a good night and have a very good weekend.
Good evening. Well, we're going to have to say goodbye to the sunshine. There's rain clouds brewing up at the moment, and they'll be working their way down during this weekend. But when? Well, they're all tied in with the weather fronts. The weather front at the moment still in the north. This is going to move its way in, bringing some very wet weather to the north and the west, and then that's going to push down during Saturday night and for Sunday morning. The wettest weather then looks like being during Saturday across western Scotland, Northern Ireland, and I think by the evening into Cumbria. So there will be the risk of some localised flooding. It does mean that the sun index won't be anywhere near as high for Saturday. Across Northern Ireland and Scotland, you can see we don't have to worry at all with the cloud and the rain. To the south, 5 to 6 though is still high, so do have your sun cream handy. Now the pollen index will also be much lower. Saturday still high in the south on 10, but by Sunday, well, some relief, getting down to 5 to 7. Well, at the moment you can see the thickest cloud is in the north and the west, and that's where it's going to stay tonight. I think getting a little bit of drizzle around the coast and the hills, but the wettest weather is still back out in the far west. Now tonight it will be quite a warm night, temperatures in double figures in many places, so it will be a little bit humid and muggy, I think. During Saturday morning, that rain starting off in the north and the west, gradually coming south and east into North Wales and northwest England, but many parts of England and Wales staying dry throughout the day and also fine. Quite warm here, temps around 22 to 24, but to the north and the west it will be much cooler. Into Saturday evening, that rain just creeping down into the Midlands perhaps and across Wales, but for England and much of the southeast it will stay dry and fairly fine. Into Sunday morning though, that's where we have the rain. That rain will quickly push away, being followed on though by fresher, cooler conditions, but quite a lot of heavy showers as well. Temperatures in the north much lower, around 13, in the south 18 to 19. On Monday, more showers to come. Bye-bye for now.